We are live. Launch radio.
First one. Part one.
So, because we're just jumping right in, we're each going to introduce ourselves first. So, I'm Geoff Pilkington.
I'm Kira Mamula.
And Kira and I go way back from early days in LA.
Yeah.
We were working at
It's like 12 years ago.
At a talent agency together. 12 years ago.
Lowly on the totem pole at the talent agency.
Mailroom, desks, reception.
Yeah.
And we recently, I got in touch with Kira, and I had been wanting to do a podcast, and I obviously knew how talented and dynamic Kira was with everything she does, and I reached out, and
yeah, here we are.
And here we are.
Yes, he's like my brother. It's like a brother from a different mother.
Yes. we're brother and sister. We're like we're like twins here. She's my twin sister.
Don't mind the crash. That's the kittens who are just crashing down off of their tower.
They're having a great time over there. What happens when you
foster and have a zoo in your place.
A great time.
But yes, we're super stoked to be able to have this podcast. We have really good energy, and I think we have a lot to say and open up.
Lots to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to go through kind of the goal of what we're doing and launch and all of that and what?
Yeah. So basically, what's happening is I have a blog and a YouTube channel, which I've had for a few years now, where I write and create YouTube videos that actually have a wide spectrum of topics, from futuristic topics to self-help to how to improve humanity to stuff that's going on in the current world to things that are going on with people in the current world. And I kind of bring all of that together in a mesh of how do we... it sounds a little bit cliche, but it's not, so hang with me, because it is a unique angle. But it's how do we make the world a better place? We have a lot of chaos right now, and a lot of anger and just people not happy with where they are. And we don't want things to be all necessarily happy here, because I think happiness is a byproduct of living, and we don't want to cliche ourselves into that, but I wanted to create a podcast where I would have people on as guests. I wanted a co-host, and I wanted it to be about how to change the world. I think change is one of the best words for it. Change the world and change humanity. And that ultimately is what's behind the launch message. And so I wanted to start Launch Radio, which is really an experiment. Everybody listening is in on this with us, because it's a journey ultimately. And I saw that potential in Kira and what she was doing, and I reached out, and she has a whole world she's also doing, which I'll let her talk about her world for a minute. So
yeah, and I think that's why Geoff and I are going to work so well together, because he's almost down like a parallel path like that I'm doing with movement of Just One and Recognize, and the things that I'm trying to bring back empathy and bring back respect back into society. I think we've kind of lost our way, especially when it comes to social media and being isolated and almost being antisocial, to the point where, we don't know how to interact with one another, and we're very concerned about what everyone else is doing. And instead, we're not paying attention to who we are and how we're affecting the world. Yeah. And, Just One movement that I created is basically recognizing that you just have this one life. Like, how do you want to be remembered, and how do you want to approach life? With compassion, empathy, self-respect. When you look at the mirror when you come home, are you proud of what you see in the mirror? You know, and those are things that I don't think people pay attention to enough. And then myself, I'm a humanity expert. And what that is focusing on men primarily. And I myself am not a feminist. I'm much more a humanist, which actually encompasses feminism. But I believe respect is due to both men and women. I don't think it's appropriate to shove one gender down while increasing the other. So it always concerns me when I see this feminist movement, which is great. Women are getting more empowered, and that's awesome. But then they're emasculating the male, and all of a sudden the roles have shifted, and men don't really know where they're at in the world. So I want to make sure that they're still part of the conversation and pulling them out of this island that they seem to be on. So I'm much more focused on men, and because I think there's a lot of support for women, and I want to make sure men have that as well. So
I think it's such an awesome message. Like, I think it is so, and not just because I'm a guy, but no, I really genuinely think that you know, you're going against the grain in a way there, and but it's for a good reason and a genuine reason, and you know, that really is impressive. I think it's authentic, and I think you're being true to who you are, and I think that's another thing that why I wanted to partner with you on this, because I think there's a certain level kind of in the stage of where we all are, as far as the level of awareness of the world around them, and in who they are and what they're doing. And I think that we should all want to become more aware of who we are and of what's going on around us. And I listened to you talk about K for Kira and Just for One and everything, and Just One, and it shows a high level of that, of awareness in who you are and what you're going for, and that's, I think that's a great thing. And so I think that in a way it's funny, because I think we kind of like you said, we parallel one another. We're both on tracks, and we're the same in a lot of ways, but we're also different and kind of reflect each other. So
and Geoff is so wickedly smart that like his ideas are just so incredible, and I understand them, and I'm like, okay, what I'll do is like break it down for everyone so that they understand what you're talking about. Like, I understand it, I think it's wicked cool, but I want to make sure like the rest of planet Earth is understanding like how smart and how amazing the words that are coming out of your mouth.
I tend to get very, friends know this, and friends of friends know this, that I tend to get very intellectual and psychological, and I tend to look at things there. And I also think that Kira is also, she's very spiritual. We all have that difference too, where that's playing effect. But when I do get intellectual talk, she can kind of translate some of that. That's what we're hoping we can kind of work off one another in that way. Because I tend to get very, I'm an ENTP, external, intuitive, thinker, perceiver in the Myers-Briggs.
I forgot what mine is. I gotta retake mine. I think it's I-N something. Is there an N in there?
I-N, yeah, I think you're I-N. We talked about it. And then it's either thinking, feeling, T or F.
How many times? You're supposed to take it 3 times, I think, right?
Yeah.
And yours stayed the same?
I've probably taken it 10.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I get into these things. I love psychology. I do. I've taken it probably 10 times, and 8 out of 10 I was ENTP. The only one that changed was P to J, ENTJ.
What's J?
It's like the judging, organizing.
I did a story on that, actually, of like the Myers. I think it's actually really fascinating because you get to learn everyone communicates in different ways, and everyone's perception of the world is different. And I think it's important to understand how someone else is perceiving the world and how they communicate. So there's that, oh, well, that person's just annoying. It's just like, no. They may be just a different communicator than you are. You know what I mean? Like we have to accept everyone for kind of who they are versus, judging them.
Right.
And that's why I think I really love, and I'm super excited for the podcast because, I think it goes to this, not everyone's Mother Teresa. Like, I know I'm not Mother Teresa, right? I'm not a saint, that's for sure. But, I think it's awesome to have guests come on and talk about the things that they're doing for their part in the world. It doesn't always have to be like super happy and super, whatever. A lot of it's just, how do you navigate the world as a human being?
Right.
As a real human being.
That's right. And people easily fall into that trap of being cliche about, we only want this or we only want that. We actually, are not that specific. We're open to hearing people. And we both share that view and that vision. So we intend to definitely bring that to this. So basically, our plan is we're gonna have this once a week, and it's gonna be 30 minutes, and it's gonna be launch radio. We're gonna have a video version of it and an audio version of it.
Just so you can see our beautiful faces.
You get both. I was of course. Anyway, so yes, and then we're gonna have fun though. We're gonna be, we're just fun. We're joking around, and we're gonna be asking questions to people that we have on. We want to make sure we have a guest each week. It's gonna be 30 minutes. We might expand it to an hour eventually. We'll see how it goes. I think that we're really focused on. Again, it's that awareness and kind of what people are doing to change the world right now in our turbulent culture, and just helping people understand themselves and what's going on around them, and I think that we want to hear that from people. We don't just want to be like entertainment, shock value. We want kind of across the board guests from all over.
Yeah, and which is fine. I mean, everybody has their own kind of sense of like, okay, I just want to listen to like something funny today. But I think the purpose of our podcast is really to bring some realness, pull kind of the veil off or the mask off of people and really get to know human beings like we should, because we're all connected to one another. And we forget about that because, we're so isolated in our own little boxes, and, Amazon and stuff's, comes to us, and, we can order booze and it comes to our door. We don't have to leave our little sanctuary. We build up all these little walls. And I think we forget how truly amazing people are. And it's not recognized or rewarded because nobody really knows about it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like we're interviewing the Pope. It's more the everyday person, like, when these horrible fires are going on in Los Angeles, and, it's almost like, it's awful. I mean, it's so heartbreaking and you're kind of helpless. You don't know what to do. You tell people that your house is open, please stay, but in the end, they've lost their home, or, people are dying and stuff. So, I just feel like having guests on that, you could easily have a firefighter on, but maybe the neighbor who was hosing down, like, the neighbor down the street, and talking about his life and how it's impacted his view of the world now that he's been affected by something, just to bring a bit of reality in, especially in a world that's full of, everyone everything's great, and this is my vacation, everyone. Look at these beautiful pictures. And meanwhile,
politically correct.
Right.
Social
exactly.
media, politically correct. Yeah, I think that like she was saying, first of all, it's great that people have niche podcasts. And niche everything really. Like that's how I learn and how I've grown as a person is listening to all of that. So I think it's great that people have that. And I think, like she said, that's what we want to do. We want to have, I don't need to repeat it again, but it's that, authentic people who are honest and people who are real. I like that word. I like honest. Honest and authentic are kind of different in their own way. There's honesty and there's authenticity. And I think that honest kind of brings something fresh to it as well. So that's going to be the goal, and then we're gonna talk about a lot of interesting topics, kind of across the board. We will be bringing you guys stuff that just you've never even heard of. We're both we like exploring and finding out more about the world and what people are learning.
Well, I think we're both old souls, and we've been around the block once or twice or 4 times. And I think being able to talk about the things that we've gone through and that we're going through helps others learn, I don't feel so weird that I'm actually feeling that too. It's almost like hey, I'll tell you what's going on in my world, so it helps you in your world.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the finding out, people learning about each other's worlds and being authentic. It all kind of circles back to that. So that's going to be the goal. And then one thing just, that I was talking about that's so core to this, we were kind of talking about before we came on, was just the idea of, and this can be kind of, our one topic for tonight now that we've done the intro, is just the idea of, and I wrote a blog on this, just generalism, and how much I believe that it's good to have a wide range of interests. There was a book that was written by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers, which was about, it talked about the 10,000 hour rule, and different people have talked about this in the last 5 years, but the 10,000 hour rule is that it takes 10,000 hours to get good at any one talent or skill. You have to put in your 10,000 hours. And while I think that's true, and I love Malcolm Gladwell, I've read all his books. I think that the jack of all trades, master of none is a myth in that you really can be a jack of all trades. You really can have a wide range of interests. And what's interesting is it's not having a wide range of interests. Because you have a mix of things, you're actually still focusing. And what I mean by that is James Altucher brought up this, I love James Altucher, this idea of idea sex. And that's kind of the whole basis for creativity and the world and creation and everything that's going on is people coming together. It's blending. And we're realizing that more as a culture, just how much bringing things together, whether it's talents, skills, people, jobs, beliefs, changes things and changes the world. And I think that's going to be also an underlying theme of the podcast is seeing that in the world. Most of the great companies became great companies because they brought together ideas that had not been blended before, right? And people as well. And so I think that people should always be exploring their talents, their interests, all sides of who they are as a being and as a human being. And we need more of that, because if you really look closely, focus can be about bringing in the generalism of it all and finding the points of where things meet that make you unique. Because you're putting in, what people don't realize is you're putting in your 10,000 hours at blending things together.
Right.
So
you're the melting pot of all of that.
So you're becoming you.
Right.
So you're doing what Gladwell's saying. So Gladwell's kind of right. Because yes, 10,000 hours, you're playing hockey. You're learning one skill, okay? But blending skills, you're still putting it in because you're blending this all together, putting in those hours of doing that and becoming who you are.
Right.
So I think expansion is so key to finding your truth and to really everything in the world and the universe.
Do you think that that's getting harder and harder for people to take the time to actually explore that? I almost find that for men, I'm speaking from my experience in dating men, that men don't have a lot of hobbies, and they're just kind of like, when you get in a relationship with them, they start to wait on you, and you're like, I'm gonna go out because I'm gonna go ride my horse or whatever it is, and they're just like sitting there waiting. I'm like, you need to get an activity, and I don't know what that is, but you need to figure it out. And I feel like it's harder for men to figure that out once they get older, but I don't know.
I think it's sad.
Yeah.
Why does everybody not have? Maybe it's just who I am as yes, I do think that's true, and I think that's sad. I think that we've become this. The culture. People accept that. This is what I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to be. I watch football and I drink beer and I get married and that's my life.
Right. I scream at the kids. Yeah.
And there's so much more that you could be exploring.
Right.
And yeah, I think that a lot of people are closed off to that.
Yeah. And
I have a friend in Virginia Beach who's married with kids, and he says to me, I went to high school with him, and he says, I could never have time to do all the activities you do. But again, he I am empathetic too that he does have a marriage and kids.
Right.
So does the marriage and kids limit the time to be able to learn hobbies, or do you think that people can still?
I think so. I think you have to carve out time. Mm-hmm. And you have to, time management's one of those things that sounds lofty and sounds almost like corporate world, but if you don't have time management, you have no idea what you're spending significant amounts of, how long you were actually looking on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why Instagram just started to build that. You can look how long you've been on it, because you don't want to just be the scrolling zombie and you're not really intaking anything from it when you could have been doing anything else for the past 5 hours. I know I get down rabbit holes that I'm like, oh my God, I've been researching this for 3 hours, and you're just like, where did the day go? And the other thing is I'd say along the same lines of bringing yourself together and finding out who you are through those activities is also something that the Japanese call Kaizen. And Toyota, that's their motto as a company, and it means continuous improvement. They're continually improving constantly. You're never at your peak as a human being. You're always trying something new. And Toyota's really big in it. They say Kaizen all the time. And I've always kind of embraced that. For myself, on a daily basis, I try to always improve who I am, whether that's better friend, better human being to other, whatever it is, I'm always striving to be a better form of myself.
Yeah.
Because there's never an end to it. And if you stop paying attention to what you're doing as a human being, I think that's when you get lonely and a little depressed, because then your self-worth and your life purpose starts to get out of whack, because you're just like, I just sit here and drink beer and watch sports.
Right.
You're stuck then into a cardboard box instead of really opening up and really exploring who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
I think again though it all comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah.
It comes down from self-awareness, and it comes from what you said just now about time management, and that you're absolutely right. They do that because they're not managing their time.
Right.
And I would also say, we're not here to tell you what to do and what not to do either, because a lot of people are very happy with that, and
they lead happy lives. And you know what? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I respect the experts who are like, and this is what you should do, and here's the 5 steps, and it's like fair. But I would rather hear from someone who's like, hey, I had a wickedly awful day today. This is how I dealt with it. You know what I mean? Just be real about your own real life instead of having some expert almost act like a god, and you're just like, well, do you have problems, or are you just telling me how I should solve mine?
Right.
It's like, I would much rather hear from someone who's going through something that I can relate to versus hearing someone shove, the 5 steps to X. I'm like, okay, I want to connect with someone.
Because it's real. Because that person's real. And that's what we're after, is hearing that. And we'll drop, little blurbs here and there of the self-help stuff just because it's fun to bring in a little bit. But ultimately, that's what we want, is the people who, can kind of share their experiences and bring that to life. It doesn't, we won't have it so formulaic. But I think that, kind of what, off what you were saying, just with, what's it, Toyota, the term is
Kaizen.
Gosh,
I love it. It's I was in the auto industry for 12 years, and I remember when I first heard it 12 years ago, and because they were a client of mine, and ever since then, I was like, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I want to live that every day. You know what I mean? And that means so much to me as a person that I'm just constantly striving it. It doesn't it's not so much like perfection, because there's no such thing. You're just constantly trying to do better as a human being. And
that's the definition. It's
continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And this all plays in so well about the continuous improvement and just expanding, self-expansion. Another book I read recently, I wrote about this. I forget the title. I'll put it in the blog, but it had the term what's called technology brokers. And those are people that cross fields from one field to another, which is kind of like James Altucher's idea sex thing, except it's actually people who go from one industry to another, and they're like a visitor bearing gifts because that industry hasn't seen that before.
Wow.
So they can bring their talents from what they've learned doing something somewhere into another, and all of a sudden become the most unique person in that business because nobody has seen it in that business before. And there's like a list of examples of people who have done that over the years. I'm trying to think of who off the top of my head is somebody that have done it. There's so many. I mean, one person who, just kind of how he operated, obviously, was Steve Jobs. And even though, he was always into computers, what's interesting about it is how into simplicity Steve Jobs was. Yeah. Steve Jobs was all about, he wanted Apple and to change the world, but he wanted to do computers in such this, the simplest way. He wanted the cleanest, most, user-friendly, but it was simplicity. Right. The brilliance was in how clean everything was. Right. And he was really, I've read, passionate about that. Almost
to the point of, maniacal about it. So streamlined that it was obnoxious for everyone to try but it was genius. It was just it took it to a whole other realm of being so controlling into what you want, but it worked. I mean, my God, look at the company now,
And so he brought simplicity, even though it's not another business, but he brought simplicity to that, and that's how Apple computers grew. Another person there's so many of these people. Ronald Reagan was an actor who then went on to become president. So he was politics. He was in a different field, and he brought it into, he was in the acting, and he brought it into the political field. There's a wide range of people that are just like that. Trump was in real estate,
right?
Who then became president, and we hadn't seen that before. And obviously, Trump takes a big hit, but he was able to, when he got elected, he was able to use those skills.
Run the country like a business.
He runs it like he's running
right.
Donald Trump runs the country like he's running, he's doing business.
Right.
He's
right
a
or wrong.
businessman.
That's what the platform he ran on was. I'm going to run it like a business because that's how it is. Whether that's not even political saying like, yes, he's great or no, he's awful. It's just, that was his mentality of like, I'm going to bring my background into running the country.
Yeah. And there's, a wide range of people. I mean, Oprah crossed over. She was doing, broadcast, and then she was also an actress. She did TV broadcast. I hate to keep it just in entertainment, but this happens in a wide range of fields. There's Julia Childs, who I think was a chef. You heard of her? She was a Meryl Streep player.
Oh, she's awesome. I used to watch that show when I was little.
Yeah.
Like Julia Child's show.
Yeah.
Show was, she would drop like the turkey on the floor and then pick it up. And you're like, what is happening?
She was unique.
Oh, she was so wild.
Yeah.
Loved her. Her show was so badass. Yeah.
So we're all about that. Having these people that are crossing over, doing different things, exploring themselves.
Eccentric, but like also have, make their own little impact on the world, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be big, but has their own little impact. So
totally. I'm
looking forward to the next one.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
I think it's gonna be great.
This is fun. We discussed a lot. We're having a great time here. Me and my sister here. We're
sister from a different mister.
That's right. I think that covers it.
Yeah, totally. We're super stoked to do this. I think it's gonna be really enlightening for us and also for our viewers / listeners, and we're looking forward to exploring some really interesting topics.
This is our intro. This is episode 1 of Launch Radio.
Yes.
We will put it on YouTube. We'll put it on all the social media. It will be available audio,
billboards,
and visual.
It'll be everywhere.
Billboards on Sunset Boulevard.
Planes will be like, those little billboard things.
You'll see us on the plane. That's right.
Right.
Just like plane billboard.
I'll jump out of the plane.
Flying over. Yeah, that's the two of us. Those crazy Hollywood people. That's us. So thank you guys for listening in to episode 1 of Launch Radio, and we will have many more to come. This will all be available online tomorrow, which is November 12th.
Yes.
And from here on out, we'll record on Sundays, and we'll put it out on Monday.
Yes.
Is our plan. So thank you guys, and thanks for listening, and have a wonderful night.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.